Focus today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and been looking forward to our guest today, Michael Pack. He's the producer and the director of The Last 600 Meters. He's also the president of Manifold Productions, the award-winning film company that he founded in 1977. He has written, directed, and produced many national broadcast documentaries, including the acclaimed film Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words. Michael also served as the first Senate-confirmed CEO of the U.S. Agency of Global Media, overseeing Voice of America and other international broadcasters. He has previously led the Claremont Institute, served as the senior vice president at the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, and was appointed to the National Council of Humanities. Wow. What a resume. He does have a website, manifoldproductions.com, and there is the picture of the landing page there, manifoldproductions.com. Michael, good to see you, friend. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Fine. Where are you?
I'm in Chevy Chase, Maryland.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. Thanks for being with us today. Tell us about your latest, The Last 600 Meters. What are you doing here?
Well, it premiered on PBS last night, but it's available on Amazon today. And it's called The Last 600 Meters because a Special Forces sniper says in the film, "I don't make foreign policy, I deliver the last 600 meters of it," meaning what he could see through his sniper scope. And that's the way we try to tell the story. It tells the story of the two biggest battles of the Iraq War. The first Battle of Fallujah, Najaf, and the second Battle of Fallujah. They were the biggest battles America fought since Vietnam. And we try to tell the story of what happened on the ground. The battle stories as if they were Gettysburg or Iwo Jima, historic battles, which they are. And we tell them through the words and deeds of the men and women who fought there. They look right at camera. They tell what happened without commentary from me or anyone else.
Wow. How many people did you talk to research this?
Well, the research began many years ago. So the battles took place in 2004. We conducted the interviews 3 years later in 2007. And we completed a version of it early on, and it took a while for PBS to agree to put it on the air. But I talked to many, many of them. Not all of them are in the final film. You just couldn't get them all in. But I think in the film itself, there are about 15, 20 people that we spoke to. I mean, it's important not to speak to too many because they are also characters in a film, and you want to get to know them. And I think that the audience does get to know them. And I particularly think it's appropriate to talk about it, today, Veterans Day, because I think this is the way veterans want to be remembered, what they did in battle, what they did for America, not just stories like PTSD or their challenges coming home, although those are important stories. And I think these battles, these wars, Iraq and Afghanistan, have been neglected, and I'm happy to actually get this story out, especially yesterday and today.
Well, yes, congratulations, and thank you for doing it. Were you surprised by some of the interviews you got?
I really was. I mean, more than surprised, I found them moving. I mean, I've made many films. I've done over 15 that have been broadcast nationally on PBS. And your viewers, if they're interested, could go to our website, manifoldproductions.com, for the older films. And then some of the newer films are on our new website back here, palladiumpictures.com. But this was, I think, one of the most emotionally moving films I've ever made. It's not so much surprising to hear from these people as their stories were really moving. I think they changed me and actually my family, who are all involved in this film, forever. And I recently had a screening in Washington of the film, and we invited a lot of the vets that were in the film to come, and I saw them again after not having seen them for many years. And it was extremely moving, again, to meet them and hear from them. I just think their stories are incredible. I mean, their valor, their courage, and the peculiar difficulties of this kind of warfare, this kind of counterinsurgency, urban warfare that they had to fight. I think often on Veterans Day, we think about World War II, World War I, the big wars. But really, most wars are like this, counterinsurgency, and they have their special challenges, and we try to depict them in the last 600 meters.
If you don't mind me asking, Michael, how did it change you?
Well, I mean, it just, I mean, to give one colorful example, I mean, when I conducted these interviews in 2007, I have 3 sons, and they were all in middle school and high school. And the day after meeting one of these groups of Marines, my oldest son wanted to enlist. He wanted to go out the next day to enlist. Luckily, since he was still in high school, the Marine said, well, maybe he should finish college first. You know, good advice from these young Marines. But I think that gives you an idea, you know, this sort of appreciation of their courage and valor. I mean, my son is now a DC police officer, so a reservist police officer. So he did, I mean, I think it affected his life that way. And all of us, I mean, I did not know a lot of veterans. I think one of the sad things about contemporary America is a lot of us are cut off from the military, and we were such a family. So this was a chance to meet and appreciate that part of the country that puts its lives on the line for us, sacrifices often sometimes the ultimate sacrifice for us, and see what those young men are like. And they were inspiring. At one point, PBS said, well, surely I use central casting to get such well-spoken Marines and soldiers, but they were really not. They were the ones in the footage, but they were very impressive that way. And it's changed my view of the military, changed my view. It kind of strengthened my patriotism.
Again, folks, the movie is called The Last 600 Meters, aired last night, but you can now get it there at Amazon. Michael, a lot of these people were young.
A lot of them were young. I mean, those that were lance corporals or sergeants, they were like in their late teens, early 20s. It was amazing what we're asking people at that age to do. I mean, they're fighting a war where they don't know whether someone is a civilian that they have to help or an insurgent that's out to kill them. I mean, it's a lot to ask. Breaking down door after door and not knowing what's behind it.
You talk about their courage a lot. Of course, what's interesting about this, you let them talk. You didn't narrate over the top of them. You let them talk. I think that's a fascinating aspect of the film. But let's see, how can I ask this? Where do you think they got the courage to go forward? I mean, you go in with the military with one anticipation, you go through all the training. Now you're facing real bullets. Where do they get the courage?
Indeed. I mean, it's hard to say where courage comes from. I mean, of course, they don't like you talking about this, and I consider them heroes, but they hate that term, and they would not like talking like this, but it's still the reality. I don't know. I mean, there's a sense that, you know, they're carried away by their camaraderie with their friends. I mean, when this group got together now, 17 years after I interviewed them, 21 years after the battle, you can still feel the camaraderie. In some ways, as they said just recently, they're closer to their fellow Marines than they are to their family. They've gone through something, a near-death experience. I mean, the bond is intense. And they're moved by patriotism too, love of country, you know, honor, country, duty, you know. These things move them. At some level, you can never tell where courage comes from. You know, there have been a lot of great novels written about it over time. The Red Badge of Courage comes to mind. Where does it come from? Who knows? It's sort of a mystery. But civilization has depended, especially on young men and now young women, having that kind of courage and defending this country, in spite of, you know, rational reasons not to show courage and run away, as you suggest, when real bullets are flying. Without that courage and without that generations of coming forth with that courage, America would not survive. So we depend on it. But I think, to me, it remains a mystery.
These young soldiers that go out, and the ones you've interviewed especially, their lives are forever changed as well. They come home with, which is often called PTSD. They faced it every day. How were you to process the change that they went through as they expressed their feelings to you?
Well, our focus was not that. So I talked to them about that more off camera than on camera. As one of the Marines in the film said, for those that are in combat, those that are actually in intense combat like Fallujah and Najaf, which is not a huge percentage of the military, since there's a big tooth to tail ratio, the number of people supporting those at the tooth, at the tip of the spear. But those in combat, he made the point, all have PTSD. It's like a spectrum from mild to intense. They all have to deal with those images that are burned into their mind. And our film has some of those. We do not want to soft sell the horrors of war. I mean, one of them talks about, and we show, feral cats and dogs at the end of the Battle of Fallujah, looking for dead bodies, to feast on, and we even see one. And, they're horrible images that they can't forget, as well as this very intense bond. So, it remains to me a mysterious process. I don't know how they deal with the PTSD of it. It's individual. I will say on that subject that we have a new film coming out in partnership with the Wall Street Journal. We do a bunch of short films with them on the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And I did speak to those Marines that were at Abbey Gate at the bombing, at both and before and after, and what it's like for them to deal with what they saw. And that's, I think, also particularly horrible.
When will that be out?
That'll be out sometime next year. I mean, we'll have finished it by the end of this year. And I feel those Marines that had to decide who would live and who would die at the gates, sometimes bringing women and children out to the gates, releasing them where they know the Taliban was going to execute them, have to live with those images, which are peculiarly horrible. I mean, one of the people I interviewed there, Joe Lord, has a website to help Abbey Gate Marines, and I deal with that. And I think that's really important, really important.
I'm just curious, Michael, when you watch today's news, especially with the current battles, Gaza, Ukraine, how do you view that after doing what you've done?
I feel that there are a lot of similarities, especially in Gaza. I think Hamas utilizes a lot of the techniques that you can see in the last 600 meters, the insurgents using, such as hiding behind civilians, sheltering in mosques and hospitals, trying to get images that make the U.S. forces look bad to shift public opinion. It's the same thing all over again, and then manipulating public opinion to force U.S. withdrawals or Israeli withdrawals or Ukrainian withdrawals. So I feel that kind of battle is very much in play today and will be in the near future. Americans naturally do not like it, but sometimes it can't be avoided, just as it was for Israel on October 7th. They were not asking for it, but they were not asking for that war, but the war came, as Abraham Lincoln said of the Civil War, and sometimes this kind of war comes too. So yeah, I feel like we just need to understand them. I don't think you can say we'll never fight this kind of war. But you do have to understand what you're sending these young people in to fight when you agree to that kind of war, and give them the support they need, and give them, clear objectives as best as you can, not shifting military and political objectives. And you see in the film, the people on the ground have to deal with the changing winds from Washington, where they're told to go into Fallujah, then pull out of Fallujah, go seize the mosque in Najaf, and then hand it over. So I think it's very tough for these soldiers and Marines to be buffeted by political changes. Some of those political changes are unavoidable, but we should do our best to make it easier for those on the ground that are doing the fighting.
We've gone through a season where the military has been disrespected, but now, as a result of your film and future films, is one of your goals for us to reestablish our support and understanding?
Absolutely. Absolutely, we should. I think that, as I say, it had that effect on me. I hope it has that effect on viewers. I think we have to, more than just respect them, we have to appreciate and honor them. I mean, that's the purpose of Veterans Day, but we should do that all year. We rely on these people. They're the ones defending us, and they really need our understanding and support. That's sort of more or less what they ask for. And I was moved when I showed it recently that so many of the Marines wanted to show it to their families, their children, their parents, because they have trouble talking about these kinds of things, the battles they're in. And I hope the film could speak for them, to their families, and to the public. And as you say, increase understanding and support for what these young men and women are doing for us.
Michael, thank you for your work. Again, tell our viewers and listeners where they can see the film.
Well, the film is streaming on Amazon. If you just plug in The Last 600 Meters, there it is. And you can find out more about it at manifoldproductions.com, and our newer films, like the upcoming one on Afghanistan, at palladiumpictures.com. My X account is michaelpack_, but really more of the information is on the websites, and I encourage your viewers to watch Last 600 Meters and our other films as well. And this is a great thing to talk about on Veterans Day. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your work, my friend. God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay.